The world is watching you fail in real time. Every stumble, every false start, every moment of weakness is on display. Your family sees you trying and falling short. Your friends watch you set goals and miss them. Your co-workers observe your ambitions crumbling under the weight of distraction and doubt. And here's the brutal truth. They're not rooting for you the way you think they are. They're comfortable with the current version of you because it makes them feel safe about their own stagnation. This is why disappearing is not just a strategy. It's a necessity. When you vanish from the social radar and commit to transformation in the shadows, something profound happens. You remove the spectators from your arena. You eliminate the court of public opinion. You stop performing for an audience that secretly hopes you stay exactly where you are. Most importantly, you stop being that person who talks about change and start being the person who embodies it. But disappearing is an art form. Do it wrong, and you'll just be another person who ghosted for a while and came back exactly the same. Do it right, and you'll return as someone unrecognizable, someone who has shed their old skin entirely and emerged as something new, something powerful, something that makes people wonder what the hell happened to you. Let's talk about how to do this properly. The philosophy of strategic invisibility. Before we get into the mechanics, you need to understand why this works. There's a psychological phenomenon called the spotlight effect. You believe everyone is watching you far more than they actually are. But here's the paradox. When you actively invite observation by constantly sharing your journey, you create actual spectators. And spectators change the game. When you're being watched, you perform differently. Athletes know this. Artists know this. Anyone who has ever tried to work while someone looks over their shoulder knows this. Your brain shifts from execution mode to performance mode. You start making decisions based on how they'll be perceived rather than what's most effective. You begin to value external validation over internal standards. You trade authentic progress for performative gestures. Think about social media. How many people have you seen announce their transformation? Day 1 of my fitness journey. Starting my business today. New year, new me. What happens to most of them? They fade out. The announcement becomes the accomplishment. The declaration satisfies the same reward centers in the brain that actual achievement would trigger. They get their dopamine hit from the likes and comments, and suddenly the hard work seems less urgent. This is the trap of visibility. When you disappear, you cut off that easy dopamine. You eliminate the shortcuts to feeling accomplished. The only way to feel good about yourself is to actually do the work. There's no performance, no audience, no applause. Just you, your goals, and the relentless pursuit of them in the dark. The shadows become your training ground. Nobody sees you stumble. Nobody watches you fail. Nobody witnesses the embarrassing early stages where you're terrible at everything you're trying to build. And in that privacy, you give yourself permission to be bad at things until you become good at them. You remove shame from the learning process. This is where real transformation happens. Not in the spotlight, in the shadows. Phase 1, the art of vanishing. Disappearing is not just about physically removing yourself, although that can be part of it. It's about creating a psychological and social distance between your current self and the person you're becoming. You need to construct a barrier between your transformation and the world's influence on it. Here's how to vanish properly. Master your communication. Your words are your biggest liability. Every time you speak about what you're doing, you leak energy and invite interference. You need to become a vault. Start by identifying everyone in your life who currently receives updates about your plans, your struggles, your progress. This might be your close friends, your family, your partner, your co-workers, even acquaintances you chat with casually. These are your leaks. Now seal them. This doesn't mean ghosting everyone or becoming antisocial. It means being strategic about what you share. When someone asks what you're up to, you need prepared responses that give nothing away. Just staying busy, working on some stuff. Same old, same old. Master the art of the non-answer. People will push. They'll sense something is different. Come on, what are you really doing? Stay vague. Oh, just trying to be better. Change the subject. Ask them about their lives. People love talking about themselves. Redirect. The hardest part is fighting your own urge to share. You'll be excited. You'll make progress. You'll have breakthroughs. And every fiber of your being will want to tell someone about it. This is the moment where most people break. They can't contain it. They need validation. They need recognition. Don't be most people. When you feel that urge rising, channel it back into the work. That energy you want to spend on telling someone about your progress, use it to make more progress. Every time you resist the urge to share, you're building a muscle. The muscle of self-reliance. The muscle of internal validation. This muscle will serve you far beyond this transformation. Train yourself to have conversations entirely in your head. When you accomplish something, have a mental dialogue with yourself about it. Congratulate yourself. Analyze what worked. Plan the next step. Satisfy that need for recognition internally. Over time, you'll realize you don't need anyone else's approval or acknowledgement. You will become self-sufficient in validation. This is freedom. Create strategic separation. Physical distance can accelerate your disappearing act. If possible, change your environment. This doesn't necessarily mean moving to another city, although that's certainly an option. It means altering your daily patterns to minimize unwanted social contact. Change your routines. If you always grab coffee at the same place where you'd run into people you know, find a new spot. If you had regular social commitments that drained your energy and time, start declining them. I can't make it is a complete sentence. Consider your living situation. Are you in an environment that supports your transformation or sabotages it? Are you living with people who constantly pull you back into old patterns? Maybe it's time to get your own place. Maybe it's time to find roommates who are also on their own missions. Think about your digital environment too. Social media is the antithesis of disappearing. If you're serious about this, consider deleting the apps from your phone. Not just logging out, deleting them. Make it difficult to access them impulsively. Better yet, deactivate your accounts entirely for the duration of your transformation. But I need it for work. Do you? Really? Or have you just convinced yourself of that? Most people vastly overestimate how much they need social media. The businesses that truly depend on it have dedicated people managing it, or they post on a schedule without consuming the feed. You can do that if necessary. But the endless scrolling, the checking what everyone else is doing, the comparing yourself to curated highlight reels, that's poison for someone trying to disappear and transform. Cut it out. Your friends will notice. Why aren't you on Instagram anymore? I needed a break. Leave it at that. Some will be concerned. Are you okay? I'm great, just focusing on some stuff. Some will be judgmental. That's weird. Let them think it's weird. Their opinion doesn't matter anymore. Remember, you're not disappearing to be mysterious or dramatic. You're disappearing because visibility is a liability. Every person who knows what you're doing is a potential source of discouragement, doubt, unsolicited advice, or energy drainage. Minimize those sources. Establish your inner circle. There's one exception to the disappearing act, your inner circle. But this circle should be so small it might as well be a dot. Ideally, this is one person. Maybe it's your partner. Maybe it's a friend who has proven through years of loyalty that they genuinely want you to succeed. Maybe it's a mentor who has already achieved what you're working toward. One person who you trust completely. This person serves a specific function. They're your anchor to reality and your emergency outlet when things get truly dark. Because they will get dark. There will be moments when you need someone to tell you that you're not crazy, that this is worth it, that you can keep going. But even with this person, you maintain boundaries. You don't give them a play-by-play of every day. You don't seek their approval for every decision. You don't use them as a constant source of motivation. You rely on yourself first, and you reach out to them only when genuinely necessary. And here's the crucial part. This person must understand what you're doing and why. They need to respect your disappearing act. If they're constantly trying to pull you back into social situations, or questioning your commitment, or making you feel guilty for not being available, they're not the right person for your inner circle. Choose carefully, choose wisely, or choose no one at all. Some people do this completely alone, and there's something beautifully pure about that. Just you and your mission. No dependencies, no vulnerabilities. Total self-reliance. Only you can decide if you need that one person, or if you're better off completely alone. Both paths work. Both paths are difficult. Neither is superior to the other. Eliminate status signaling. Here's a behavior pattern you need to recognize and destroy. Status signaling. This is when you do things primarily to show others that you're doing them. You go to the gym not just to get strong, but to post the gym selfie. You read books not just for knowledge, but to display them on your shelf for visitors. You pursue goals not just for the intrinsic value, but for the social credit they provide. When you disappear, all status signaling must stop. This is harder than it sounds because most of us have been conditioned since childhood to perform for approval. We got gold stars in school. We got praised for achievements. We learned that doing impressive things leads to recognition, and recognition feels good. So we start chasing recognition instead of achievement. You need to rewire this. Start by auditing your motivations. For every goal you have, ask yourself, would I still want this if nobody ever knew I achieved it? If the answer is no, that goal is about status, not substance. It doesn't mean you abandon it entirely, but you need to be honest about why it's on your list. Real transformation comes from goals that you pursue even if you were the last person on earth. Building strength because it makes you feel powerful. Acquiring skills because they fascinate you. Creating wealth because it gives you freedom. These motivations are pure. They exist independent of observation. When you eliminate status signaling, you free up enormous amounts of energy. You're no longer working on your transformation and your image simultaneously. You're just working on your transformation. The focus becomes singular and intense. You also eliminate a major source of disappointment. When you're signaling status, you're dependent on others' reactions to feel good about your efforts. When their reactions don't match your expectations, you feel deflated. When you're not signaling at all, your satisfaction comes entirely from your own assessment of your progress. You control the reward system. This is power. Develop your secret identity. Here's an advanced technique. Create a mental separation between your public self and your transformation self. Think of them as two different people inhabiting the same body. Your public self is the version that still has to interact with the world. This version goes to work, maintains necessary relationships, handles obligations. This version is perfectly normal, unremarkable, consistent with who you've always been. Your transformation self is who you become when you're alone. This is the person who is relentlessly pursuing your goals, who is disciplined beyond measure, who is obsessed with progress. This person operates in the shadows, unseen, unheard, unstoppable. The key is never letting one bleed into the other. When you're in public mode, you're completely present there. You're not distracted by thinking about your transformation. You're not mentally rehearsing your next training session. You engage appropriately with whatever the situation requires. You give no indication that there's another version of you that's dramatically different. When you're in private mode, the transformation self takes over completely. This version of you is ruthlessly focused. Time is precious. Every moment is allocated to the mission. There's no casual lounging, no mindless scrolling, no purposeless activity. This dual identity serves multiple purposes. First, it helps you maintain the disappearing act by keeping your two worlds completely separate. Second, it makes the transformation feel more real and powerful. You're not just working on yourself. You're becoming a different person. Third, it creates a psychological boundary that helps you sustain intense effort over long periods. When you get good at this, switching between identities becomes seamless. Clock out of work, and within moments you've transitioned from public self to transformation self. The shift is immediate and complete. This is mastery. Guard your energy. Energy is your most valuable resource. Not time. Energy. You can have all the time in the world, but if you're depleted, you'll waste it. When you disappear, one of your primary objectives is energy conservation and amplification. Identify everything that drains your energy. These are your energy vampires. They come in many forms. People who complain constantly. People who create drama. People who are negative and pull you into their negativity. People who don't respect your time or boundaries. People who are always having crises that you feel obligated to help solve. Cut them off. Or at minimum, severely limit your exposure to them. This will be controversial. Some of these people might be family members. Some might be longtime friends. Some might be co-workers you can't completely avoid. But you can create distance. You can stop being available for their emotional dumping. You can set boundaries that protect your energy. That sounds selfish. Good. Be selfish about your energy. This is your transformation we're talking about. This is your one life. You don't owe anyone unlimited access to your energy, especially when they're not reciprocating or supporting your growth. Notice also the activities that drain you. Mindless TV watching, aimless internet browsing, excessive news consumption, pointless arguments online, shopping as a hobby. Anything that takes your energy and gives you nothing in return. Eliminate ruthlessly. Replace energy drains with energy amplifiers. These are activities that leave you feeling more energized than before you started. Exercise is usually an amplifier. Learning new skills can be. Creating things. Spending time in nature. Deep work on meaningful projects. Quality sleep. Maximize these. Your goal during your disappearing act is to operate at consistently high energy levels. This allows you to maintain intensity over extended periods. This is how you accomplish in months what might take others years. Energy management is transformation management. Phase 2, transformation in the shadows. Now that you've disappeared, the real work begins. This is where most people fail. They successfully vanish, but they don't know what to do in the shadows. They waste the opportunity. They come back unchanged. Don't be them. Design your transformation. You need a blueprint, not some vague idea of becoming better. A specific, detailed plan of exactly what you're building. Start with the end vision. Who is the person you're becoming? Not just what they've accomplished, but who they are. What are their habits? What's their daily routine? How do they think? How do they handle challenges? What skills do they have? What's their relationship with discipline? How do they interact with others? What's their physical condition? What's their mental state? Write this out in detail. Create a comprehensive description of your future self. Make it so vivid and specific that you could almost recognize this person if you saw them. This is your target. Now work backward. What's the gap between current you and future you? Break it down into categories. Physical transformation. What needs to change about your body? Strength, conditioning, appearance, energy levels, health markers? Mental transformation. What needs to change about your mind? Knowledge base, skills, thinking patterns, emotional regulation, focus capacity. Financial transformation. What needs to change about your money situation? Income, assets, debt, financial knowledge, revenue streams. Social transformation. What needs to change about your relationships and social position? Quality of connections, network value, social skills, reputation. Spiritual transformation. What needs to change about your sense of meaning and purpose? Values alignment, self-understanding, inner peace. For each category, define specific, measurable targets. Not get in better shape, but deadlift 405 pounds, run a sub 6-minute mile, reduce body fat to 12%. Not make more money, but generate $10,000 monthly in side income. Invest $50,000. Eliminate all debt. Specificity creates clarity. Clarity creates focus. Focus creates results. Establish your transformation protocols. You need systems, not just goals. Systems are the daily actions that reliably move you toward your targets. Goals are the destinations. Systems are the vehicles. Design your ideal day. Hour by hour. What does the day of your future self look like? When do they wake up? What's their morning routine? When do they work on different areas of transformation? What do they eat and when? When do they exercise? When do they learn? When do they create? When do they rest? Map this out completely. Then start living it immediately. Not tomorrow. Not Monday. Not next month. Now. You don't need to be perfect from day one. You need to start. The system will refine itself as you go. You'll discover what works and what doesn't. You'll adjust. But you need to be in the system, living it, testing it. Here's a framework that works for many people. Morning, 5 a.m. wake up. Physical transformation work first. This might be going to the gym, or running, or martial arts training, or whatever your physical component is. Do this before your brain is awake enough to negotiate with you about it. Empty mind, just execute. Mid-morning, 7 to 9 a.m. Mental transformation work. This is when your cognitive capacity is highest. Study, learn, practice skills, read. This is your intellectual growth window. Late morning to afternoon, 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. This might be your job if you still have one, or it might be building your business, or it might be divided between necessary obligations and your financial transformation work. Evening, 5 to 8 p.m. Second wave of transformation work. This might be more skill practice, or creative work, or networking and relationship building with people who matter, or financial planning and investment research. Night, 8 to 10 p.m. Recovery and preparation. Meal prep for the next day. Planning tomorrow's execution. Reflection on today's progress. Reading for enjoyment or learning. Mobility work or meditation. Sleep, 10 p.m. Non-negotiable. Your body and brain need 7 to 8 hours to operate optimally. This is just one example. Your schedule might look completely different based on your goals and circumstances. The point is to have a structure, a daily template that you execute consistently. Consistency over intensity. Doing the work every single day matters more than having heroic days followed by collapse. You're building habits that will last beyond this transformation. You're rewiring yourself at a fundamental level. Embrace the difficulty. Here's what nobody tells you. Transformation is supposed to be hard. If it were easy, everyone would do it. The difficulty is not a bug, it's a feature. When you're in the shadows working on yourself, you're going to face resistance. External resistance from the world trying to pull you back. Internal resistance from your own mind trying to keep you comfortable. The external resistance is easier to handle because you've already disappeared. You've removed most of the external pressures. But the internal resistance? That's the real battle. Your brain is going to fight you. It's going to tell you this is too hard. It's going to remind you how comfortable your old life was. It's going to suggest that maybe you're fine the way you are. It's going to create incredibly convincing rationalizations for why you should quit. Maybe I'm just not meant to be that person. This isn't authentic to who I really am. I should accept myself as I am. Life is short. I should enjoy it instead of grinding. These thoughts are not wisdom. They're weakness disguised as wisdom. Real wisdom sounds different. Real wisdom says, "This is hard because I'm doing something worthwhile. I'm not meant to be anything. I become what I choose to build." Authenticity is not stagnation, it's growth. Accepting yourself means accepting your potential and pursuing it. Life is short. That's exactly why I need to make the most of it. When you encounter difficulty, when you want to quit, when everything in you is screaming to go back to the comfortable old patterns, remember this. You're not supposed to feel good all the time. Transformation requires discomfort. That discomfort is the price of admission. Learn to love it. Seriously. Train yourself to interpret pain and struggle as evidence that you're on the right path. When your muscles are burning during a workout, smile. When you're exhausted from studying something difficult, feel satisfied. When you're anxious about putting yourself in an uncomfortable social or professional situation, recognize it as growth. Discomfort becomes your compass. If you're not uncomfortable, you're probably not growing. Seek out the discomfort. Chase it. Make it your friend. This is how warriors think. This is how champions think. This is how people who actually transform think. Track everything. You need feedback systems. You need to know objectively whether you're making progress. Feelings lie. Data doesn't. Create tracking mechanisms for every area of transformation. Physical, take measurements. Weigh yourself. Track your lifts. Time your runs. Take progress photos. Log your workouts. Monitor your sleep quality and quantity. Track your heart rate variability. Measure your body composition. Mental. Test yourself regularly on what you're learning. Keep a count of books read, courses completed, skills practiced. Journal about your mental state and notice patterns. Track your focus capacity by noting how long you can work without distraction. Financial. Track every penny. Income, expenses, investments, net worth. Update your financial dashboard weekly. Know your numbers intimately. Emotional. Rate your daily mood and energy levels. Notice what affects them. Track your stress levels. Monitor your emotional regulation during challenging situations. The act of tracking itself creates improvement. When you know you're going to record your workout, you push a little harder. When you know you're logging your spending, you think twice about purchases. When you're measuring your focus, you catch yourself getting distracted sooner. Tracking makes the invisible visible. It takes vague impressions and makes them concrete. It shows you clearly whether your systems are working. Review your data weekly. What patterns emerge? What's working? What needs adjustment? Are you actually getting closer to your targets or just spinning your wheels? Be brutally honest in these reviews. This is not the time for self-deception or excuses. If something isn't working, change it. If you're not making sufficient progress, intensify your efforts. If you're burning out, dial back slightly. The data guides you. Trust it more than your feelings. Develop your transformation mindset. Your psychology determines everything. You can have the perfect plan and the perfect systems, but if your mind is not right, you'll fail. Here are the mental models and beliefs you need to cultivate. Extreme ownership. Everything is your fault. Everything. If something goes wrong, it's because you failed to prepare, or you made a bad decision, or you didn't try hard enough. This sounds harsh, but it's liberating. If everything is your fault, then everything is within your control to change. No more victim mentality. No more blaming circumstances. Long-term thinking. You're not just doing this for the next few months. You're building a new baseline, a new normal. You're not transforming to impress people or hit some short-term goal. You're becoming a different person permanently. This removes the pressure to rush. It allows you to be patient with process while being impatient with excuses. Process over outcomes. You can't always control results. You can control effort. Focus on executing your systems perfectly regardless of immediate outcomes. Trust that if you do the work consistently, the results will come. This prevents you from getting discouraged when progress is slower than you'd like. Abundance mentality. There's enough for everyone. Someone else's success doesn't diminish your potential. You're not in competition with anyone except yesterday's version of yourself. This mindset keeps you from wasting energy on envy or comparison. Growth mindset. You're not fixed. You're not limited by your current capabilities. Everything can be learned. Everything can be improved. Talent is overrated. Effort and strategy matter more. When you struggle with something, it's not because you lack ability. It's because you haven't practiced enough yet. Stoic acceptance. You don't control what happens to you. You control only how you respond. External events are neutral. Your interpretation gives them meaning. This creates emotional resilience. Nothing can truly defeat you because you decide what everything means. These mindsets compound. Each one reinforces the others. Together, they create an operating system that makes transformation almost inevitable. Install them through repetition. When you catch yourself thinking in old patterns, correct it. Replace the thought with the new model. Do this 1,000 times. Eventually, the new thinking becomes automatic. Master your environment. You are shaped by your environment more than you realize. If your environment supports your old self, you'll keep reverting to your old self, no matter how strong your willpower is. Design your environment to make your desired behaviors easy and your undesired behaviors difficult. Remove temptations. If you're trying to eat clean, don't keep junk food in your house. If you're trying to stop wasting time on your phone, leave it in another room. If you're trying to avoid certain people, block their numbers. Make bad choices require effort. Create triggers for good behaviors. Put your workout clothes next to your bed so you see them when you wake up. Keep books on your nightstand instead of your phone. Set up your workspace so that when you sit down, you're immediately in work mode. Make good choices the default. Optimize your space. If you're working from home, create a dedicated workspace that exists only for work. If you're training at home, set up a small gym area. If you're learning, create a study corner. Physical spaces that are associated with specific activities help you get into the right mental state faster. Control your inputs. Unsubscribe from everything that's not contributing to your transformation. Email lists, YouTube channels, podcasts, newsletters. Be ruthless. Your attention is valuable. Protect it. Only allow inputs that are actively helping you become who you want to be. Surround yourself with inspiration. This doesn't mean motivational posters. It means keeping reminders of your goals visible. Maybe it's a photo of what you want to look like. Maybe it's a symbol of the life you're building. Maybe it's just your written goals on the wall. Something that, when you see it, reconnects you to your mission. Your environment should be a machine that produces the behaviors you want. Every element should be intentional. Nothing should be there by default or accident. Cultivate productive obsession. There's a balance you need to find. On one hand, you need to be completely obsessed with your transformation. On the other hand, you need to avoid burnout and maintain some quality of life. The key is channeling your obsession productively. Obsession is not thinking about your goals 24/7 and then anxious, frantic way. That's just stress. Productive obsession is structuring your entire life around your transformation while remaining calm and focused. It means your transformation is the central organizing principle of your existence during this period. Every decision filters through it. Should I go to this event? Does it serve my transformation? Should I stay up late watching this show? Does it serve my transformation? Should I spend money on this? Does it serve my transformation? Not everything has to directly serve your transformation. You need rest. You need some enjoyment. You need to maintain basic relationships and obligations. But these should be conscious choices, not defaults. You rest because you know rest serves your transformation by keeping you fresh. You maintain certain relationships because they provide necessary support or because they're genuinely important to you. The difference between productive obsession and unhealthy obsession is consciousness. You're deliberately choosing how to allocate your time and energy based on what matters most to you right now. And here's the thing. This level of obsession is temporary. You're not going to live like this forever. You're doing this for a defined period to achieve a specific transformation. Once you've built the foundation, you can relax a bit. The habits will be established. The identity will be locked in. You can maintain without the same level of intensity. But during the transformation phase, go all in. Burn the boats. Full commitment. This is not the time for moderation. This is not the time for balance. This is the time for obsession. Handle the darkness. Let's talk about what nobody mentions. There will be dark periods. Times when you feel completely alone. Times when you question everything. Times when you wonder if this is all worth it. These moments are inevitable. Prepare for them. The darkness usually hits hardest around the midpoint. You've been grinding for a while. The initial excitement has worn off. You're not yet seeing dramatic results. You're isolated. You're tired. And your brain starts whispering that maybe this was all a mistake. This is the make or break point. This is where most people quit. They return to their old social patterns, seeking comfort. They rationalize that disappearing was unnecessary. They convince themselves they can transform while staying visible. They're wrong, and they fail. You will get through the darkness by remembering why you started, by looking at your tracking data and seeing that you are, in fact, making progress even if it doesn't feel dramatic, by trusting the process even when you can't see the end result yet. Keep a document somewhere private where you write out all your reasons for doing this. Every motivation, every goal, every vision of your future self. When darkness hits, read this document. Remember, also keep a record of your progress. Not just data, but qualitative observations. Today I did something I couldn't have done a month ago. Today I noticed I'm thinking differently about X. Today someone commented on why change even though I haven't told anyone what I'm doing. These small wins compound into evidence that this is working. The darkness is a test. It's separating the people who are serious from the people who are just dabbling. It's ensuring that only the committed make it through. Embrace the darkness. Sit with it. Let it refine you. On the other side of it, you'll be stronger. Develop anti-fragility. Nassim Taleb coined the term anti-fragile to describe things that get stronger from stress and adversity. You need to become anti-fragile. This means viewing every setback as a test and every failure as information. You don't just endure difficulties. You use them to become more capable. Missed a workout because something came up? Don't spiral into self-hatred. Analyze what happened. What can you control differently next time? Adjust your system to prevent it. Failed at something you attempted? Good. Now you know what doesn't work. Try something else. Got injured or sick? Use the forced rest to focus on other areas of transformation. There's always something you can work on. Anti-fragility means having no single point of failure. If one area of your transformation stalls, You have others to focus on. If your usual routine gets disrupted, you have alternative protocols. Build redundancy into your systems. Have backup plans. Be flexible in your methods while being rigid in your commitment to the outcome. The person who emerges from this transformation should be more resilient than when they entered. Not just physically stronger or more skilled, but mentally tougher, more adaptable, harder to break. Every challenge you face in the shadows is an opportunity to build that resilience. Practice strategic patience. You want results now. Everyone does. But transformation takes time. Real, lasting change doesn't happen in 30 days or 90 days. It happens over months and years. This is where people fail. They give up too soon because they're not seeing the dramatic changes they imagined. Understand that progress is not linear. It happens in bursts. You'll have periods where you make rapid gains. You'll have plateaus where nothing seems to change. Then another burst. This is normal. Also understand that different types of progress happen at different rates. Physical changes might be visible in weeks. Financial changes might take months. Mental and emotional changes might take even longer to fully manifest. Be patient with the process while being intense with the execution. Show up every day. Do the work. Trust that compound interest applies to self-improvement just as it does to money. Every day you execute your systems, you're investing in yourself. The returns might not be immediately visible, but they're accruing. One day you'll look back and be shocked at how far you've come. Strategic patience is not passive waiting. It's active, consistent effort, combined with trust in the timeline. Experiment relentlessly. Your initial plan is not going to be perfect. Your systems will need refinement. Your approach will need adjustment. Be willing to experiment. Try different methods. Test different protocols. If something isn't producing results after a reasonable trial period, change it. Don't get attached to strategies just because you invested time in them. This is the advantage of being in the shadows. You can fail privately. You can try things that don't work without anyone knowing. You can iterate rapidly without explaining yourself. Keep a transformation journal where you document what you're trying and what results it produces. This week I tried X, results Y. Next week I'll adjust by doing Z. Treat your transformation like a science experiment. Form hypotheses. Test them. Gather data. Reach conclusions. Implement improvements. The person who is willing to experiment and adapt will ultimately transform more effectively than the person who rigidly sticks to a plan that's not working. Be dogmatic about your goals. Be flexible about your methods. Phase 3, the emergence question. Here's where it gets interesting. After months of grinding in the shadows, transforming yourself completely, you face a choice. Do you reemerge, or do you stay hidden? The conventional narrative says you disappear, transform, and then return to society as a butterfly emerging from a chrysalis. Everyone is shocked. You've achieved what you set out to achieve. Fade to black, roll credits. But reality is more nuanced. When you've truly transformed, something unexpected happens. You don't want to return to how things were. You don't want the visibility. You don't want the validation. You've tasted the freedom and power of operating in the shadows, and it's addictive. You've learned that you don't need anyone's approval. You've proven to yourself that you can accomplish extraordinary things without an audience. You've developed an internal compass that guides you better than any external feedback ever did. So why would you go back? The case for staying hidden. Many people who successfully transform choose to remain relatively invisible even after achieving their goals. Not completely isolated, but selectively visible. Strategic in their engagement with the world. They've learned that visibility comes with costs. Energy drainage from managing other people's perceptions and reactions. Time wasted on social obligations that don't matter. Pressure to maintain a certain image. Exposure to envy and negativity. Distraction from continued growth. Why take on those costs when you've built something that works? These people become what you might call stealth high achievers. They're incredibly successful, but most people don't know it. They're physically transformed, but they don't post gym selfies. They're wealthy, but they don't signal it. They're skilled, but they don't advertise it. They move through the world quietly, with confidence that comes from knowing what they're capable of rather than needing others to know. There's profound power in this approach. You become underestimated. People don't see you as a threat or competition. You can operate with freedom and flexibility. You avoid the spotlight's glare and all the complications it brings. You also maintain the conditions that allowed your transformation in the first place. You keep the focus internal. You keep the standards high. You keep the distractions minimal. This is sustainable long-term in a way that high visibility often isn't. The case for strategic emergence. That said, there are valid reasons to re-emerge selectively. Maybe your transformation includes goals that require visibility. Building a business that needs customers. Creating art that needs an audience. Developing influence that requires a platform. Teaching others what you've learned. Maybe you want to reconnect with people who matter to you on new terms. To show them what's possible. To inspire them to begin their own transformations. Maybe you've achieved things that could benefit others if shared. Knowledge, insights, methods that could help people. In these cases, emergence makes sense, but it should be strategic, not a return to old patterns. Strategic emergence means you control the narrative. You decide what to share and what to keep private. You don't give anyone the full picture of your life. You remain partially hidden even while being partially visible. You maintain boundaries. You're available on your terms, not everyone else's. You protect your time and energy as fiercely as you did during the transformation. You continue the practices that got you here. The transformation doesn't end. You don't stop working on yourself. You don't stop operating from that place of internal focus and discipline. You use visibility as a tool, not a need. You're not seeking validation. You're not trying to impress anyone. You're simply leveraging visibility to accomplish specific objectives. This is emergence without regression, the hybrid approach. Most people who successfully transform end up somewhere in the middle. They're not completely hidden, but they're not fully visible either. They're selectively social, carefully curating what they share and with whom. They might reconnect with close friends and family, but on new terms. I've been working on myself. I'm different now. Here's what that means for how I engage with you. They might build a public presence in specific domains while keeping other areas completely private. Public about their professional expertise, private about their personal life. Visible in their craft, invisible in their routine. They operate with discernment. Not everyone gets access. Not everyone gets explanations. Not everyone gets their time or attention. They've learned that most people don't deserve to know what you're doing or why. That sounds harsh, but it's true. Most people haven't earned that level of trust or intimacy. Most people won't understand or appreciate your transformation anyway. So you reserve your inner world for the few who truly matter. Everyone else gets the public-facing version of you, which is polite but reveals nothing important. This is how you protect your transformation permanently. How to re-emerge without losing your edge. If you decide to re-emerge in any capacity, follow these principles to avoid sliding back. Never explain. Don't justify your transformation to anyone. Don't walk people through your journey unless you choose to for specific reasons. Most people's curiosity is not a claim on your story. I've been working on myself is sufficient. If they press, I prefer to keep that private. End of conversation. Maintain mystery. Even as you become more visible, Keep significant parts of your life hidden. People should never have the full picture. This preserves your power and keeps you interesting. It also prevents interference in areas you are still developing. Set hard boundaries. Make it clear what you will and won't engage with. Toxic people, energy drainers, time wasters, they're still blocked. Your transformation gave you permission to be ruthless about protecting your space. Don't revert to people-pleasing. Keep your systems. The routines and protocols that enabled your transformation don't stop. You're not done. You're just entering a new phase. Maintain your morning routine. Keep training. Keep learning. Keep building. The habits are permanent. Stay internally focused. Don't let external validation become important again. Notice when you're starting to care what others think. Catch it immediately. Remind yourself that you transformed precisely by not caring. Don't give away that power. Choose your circle carefully. As you reemerge, be extremely selective about who you let into your life. Quality over quantity. A few people who genuinely support your continued growth are worth more than dozens of casual connections. Remain future-oriented. Your transformation wasn't a destination. It was a launch pad. Now you're building from a higher baseline. Set new goals. Design new challenges. Keep pushing. Never become complacent. The ultimate truth. Here's what you'll discover if you do this right. Disappearing and transforming teaches you that you never needed to be visible in the first place. All those years you spent worrying about what people thought, trying to impress others, seeking validation and approval, wasted. Completely unnecessary. You could have been building yourself the entire time. The version of you that emerges from the shadows is someone who has internalized this lesson. Someone who knows that external opinion is worthless. Someone who is guided entirely by internal standards and personal vision. This person is dangerous in the best way. Dangerous because they can't be controlled or manipulated. Dangerous because they don't need anything from anyone. Dangerous because they've proven they can accomplish anything they set their mind to. This is freedom. And once you taste it, you never want to go back. Advanced strategies for deeper transformation. Let's go deeper. The basics will get you far. But if you want to maximize your transformation, these advanced strategies will take you to another level. The power of micro-identities. You're not just one person. You are a collection of identities that you activate in different contexts. When you're at work, you activate your professional identity. When you're with family, you activate your family member identity. When you're alone, you activate your private self-identity. Most people let these identities form randomly through life experience. You're going to design them deliberately. For your transformation, create a specific identity that exists only in the transformation context. Give this identity characteristics. What does this identity value above all else? What does this identity never compromise on? How does this identity respond to challenges? What does this identity believe about themselves? What standards does this identity hold? Make this identity concrete. You might even give it a name if that helps you embody it. Some people use alter egos for this purpose. David Goggins has Goggins. Kobe Bryant had Black Mamba. These aren't just nicknames. They're distinct identities with specific characteristics. When you're in transformation mode, you activate this identity. You step into it fully. You're not pretending. You're accessing a real part of yourself that you've deliberately constructed. This creates psychological distance from your old self. It's harder for old patterns to resurface because you're literally being someone else. Someone who doesn't have those patterns. Over time, as your transformation solidifies, this identity integrates with your main identity. The characteristics become permanent, but during the transformation phase, keeping them separate helps you make dramatic changes more easily. The concept of deliberate stress. Most people try to minimize stress during their transformation. They think they need to be calm and peaceful to grow. This is partially true but incomplete. You need to distinguish between chronic stress and acute stress. Chronic stress is destructive, constant, low-grade anxiety and pressure that never lets up. Acute stress is constructive, short periods of intense demand followed by recovery. Your transformation should include deliberate acute stress. Physical stress, pushing your body to its limits in training, then allowing recovery. This is how you build strength and capacity. Mental stress, tackling problems that are slightly beyond your current ability, forcing your brain to grow. This is how you expand your cognitive abilities. Emotional stress, putting yourself in situations that are uncomfortable, like public speaking or confronting fears. This is how you build emotional resilience. The key is the recovery phase. You can't be under constant stress, but you also can't grow without stress. So you design your transformation to include regular stress/recovery cycles. This is how elite performers in any domain operate. They stress their systems deliberately, then recover, which causes adaptation. They're systematically making themselves more capable. Design stress into your transformation. Don't avoid it. Use it. The philosophy of voluntary hardship. Take the stress concept further. Deliberately make your life harder in certain ways. Why would you do this? Because comfort makes you weak. Hardship makes you strong. And you get to choose your hardships. If you don't choose them, life will choose them for you. And life's choice might be much worse than what you would have chosen. So you practice voluntary hardship. Physical hardship, cold exposure, fasting, training when tired, sleeping on the floor occasionally. Things that are uncomfortable, but not harmful. Mental hardship, doing difficult cognitive tasks when you'd rather relax, maintaining focus for extended periods, working through problems without looking up answers immediately. Social hardship, having difficult conversations, setting boundaries that might upset people, being alone for extended periods. Financial hardship, living below your means even when you could afford more, delaying gratification, staying in the struggle longer than necessary. This builds what the ancient philosophers called virtus, a kind of strength and excellence of character that comes only through testing yourself. The modern world tries to remove all hardship. Everything is convenient, comfortable, easy. This makes people soft, incapable, fragile. You're going in the opposite direction. You're deliberately seeking hardship within the safe container of your controlled transformation. This makes you resilient, capable, anti-fragile. When real hardship inevitably comes in life, you're ready. It doesn't break you. You've already trained for it. Creating transformation rituals. Rituals are powerful because they signal to your brain that something important is happening. They create state changes. They help you transition between different modes. Design rituals for your transformation. Beginning ritual. How do you start each transformation session? Maybe it's a specific playlist. Maybe it's a visualization exercise. Maybe it's a physical routine like jumping jacks and deep breathing. Whatever it is, it should be the same every time. It tells your brain, we're entering transformation mode now. Ending ritual. How do you conclude each session? Maybe it's reviewing what you accomplished. Maybe it's planning tomorrow. Maybe it's a gratitude practice. This signals completion and allows your brain to transition out of high-intensity mode. Weekly ritual. How do you mark the end of each week? Maybe it's a long reflective session where you review all your tracking data. Maybe it's a challenging physical feat. Maybe it's time in nature. This creates rhythm and allows you to assess progress regularly. Milestone rituals. When you hit significant markers in your transformation, how do you acknowledge them? Not by announcing to others, but by doing something meaningful for yourself. Maybe it's buying something you've wanted. Maybe it's a day completely off. Maybe it's writing yourself a letter documenting what you've achieved. Rituals make the abstract concrete. They make the transformation feel real and important. They also make it easier to enter flow states, because your brain learns to associate the ritual with high performance. Design your rituals with intention. Make them meaningful. Execute them consistently. The compression technique. Here's an advanced method. Periodically compress your transformation work into intense sprints. Instead of your normal routine, you might do a week where you go absolutely all out. You reduce sleep slightly, increase training volume, maximize study time, minimize everything non-essential. You push yourself to your absolute limit. This serves multiple purposes. It shows you what's possible. You discover you're capable of more than your normal routine demands. This raises your baseline. It creates rapid progress. Sometimes concentrated effort produces better results than the same amount of effort spread over time. It builds mental toughness. Surviving an intense week proves to yourself that you can handle more than you thought. It breaks plateaus. Sometimes your body and mind need a shock to the system to start adapting again. But you can't sustain this. After a compression week, you need extra recovery. Maybe a light week. You can't compress all the time or you'll burn out. Use compression strategically. Maybe once a month. Maybe when you're feeling particularly strong. Maybe when you've plateaued and need to break through. The power of constraint. Counterintuitively, limitations can accelerate transformation. When you have fewer resources or options, you become more creative and focused. Consider deliberately constraining yourself. Time constraint. I have exactly 90 days to achieve this goal. The deadline focuses your efforts. Resource constraint. I have to accomplish this with minimal money. This forces you to be resourceful and learn skills instead of buying solutions. Option constraint. I'm only going to use these specific tools/methods. This prevents analysis paralysis and forces mastery of what you have. Social constraint. I can only discuss this with one person. This maintains secrecy while still allowing some outlet. Constraints breed creativity and intensity. They prevent you from dabbling. They force commitment. Where can you introduce productive constraints into your transformation? Building your knowledge empire. Part of any serious transformation should be aggressive knowledge acquisition. You're not just changing your body or your circumstances. You're upgrading your mind. Approach learning systematically. Identify the knowledge domains that matter most for your transformation. These might be directly related to your goals or adjacent skills that enhance your capabilities. For each domain, find the best sources. Books, courses, mentors, experiences. Go for quality over quantity. One excellent book is worth 10 mediocre ones. Schedule learning like you schedule training. It's non-negotiable time. Treat knowledge acquisition as seriously as physical work. Apply immediately. Don't just consume information. Use it. Test it. Make it practical. Knowledge without application is entertainment. Teach what you're learning, even if it's just to yourself in a journal. Explaining concepts forces you to understand them deeply. Connect ideas across domains. The most powerful insights come from combining knowledge from different fields. Look for patterns and principles that apply universally. Your transformation period is the perfect time to become genuinely educated in areas that matter to you. Not credentialed, but educated. There's a difference. By the time you emerge, you should be substantially smarter than when you disappeared. Not just more knowledgeable, but better at thinking. More capable of analyzing problems and finding solutions. This is an investment that pays dividends forever. The art of productive solitude. Being alone is not the same as being lonely. Most people avoid solitude because they're uncomfortable with their own thoughts. You're going to master solitude. Solitude is where you do your deepest thinking, where you process experiences, where you consolidate learning, where you connect with your authentic self. Practice deliberate solitude, extended periods with no input, no podcasts, no music, no reading, just you and your thoughts. Go for a walk with nothing. Sit in a room with nothing. Let your mind wander. Solo adventures. Go somewhere alone. Travel alone. Eat alone. Not because you have to, but because you choose to. Learn to enjoy your own company completely. Silent reflection. End each day with time for reviewing what happened. No judgment, just observation. What did you notice? What did you learn? What will you do differently? In solitude, you develop self-reliance at the deepest level. You become your own best friend, your own counselor, your own motivation. People who are comfortable in solitude have a huge advantage. They're never desperate for company. They're never making decisions based on loneliness. They're never compromising their standards because being alone is uncomfortable. Master solitude and you become truly independent, developing your personal philosophy. As you transform, you need to develop a coherent philosophy of life, a set of principles that guide your decisions and actions. Without this, you're just drifting even if you're accomplishing things. What do you believe about the nature of a good life? What makes life meaningful and worth living? Human potential? Are there limits, or can people change fundamentally? Success? What does it mean to succeed? Is it external achievement, internal peace, contribution to others, or something else? Relationships? What makes them valuable? What do you owe others, and what do they owe you? Work? Is it just a means to an end, or inherently valuable? What kind of work is worth doing? Difficulty? Is life supposed to be easy or hard? Is struggle valuable or something to minimize? Time. How should you spend your finite time? What's worth dedicating years to? Write out your philosophy, not in some formal academic way, but in your own words. What do you actually believe? What principles do you want to guide your life? This becomes your internal compass. When you face decisions, you consult your philosophy. Does this action align with my principles? Am I living according to my beliefs? People without a philosophy are easily swayed. They adopt others' values. They follow trends. They're buffeted by circumstances. People with a clear philosophy are unmoved. They know what matters to them. They make consistent decisions. They have integrity. Develop your philosophy during your transformation. It will serve you for life. The dark side of transformation. Let's address something nobody talks about. Transformation has costs and dangers. If you're going to do this, you should understand them. The relationship toll. When you disappear and transform, your relationships will change. Some will end. Some will become strained. Even good relationships will require renegotiation. This is because you're changing the social contract. People are used to a certain version of you. They've built their relationship with you based on who you were. When you become someone different, it disrupts that. Some people won't like the new you, not because you've become worse, but because you've become different. Maybe you're less available. Maybe you're more challenging. Maybe you don't fit into old patterns of interaction. Maybe you threaten them by demonstrating that change is possible. They'll try to pull you back. Sometimes consciously, sometimes unconsciously. You've changed, said as an accusation. I miss the old you. You're not fun anymore. You're taking this too seriously. You have to be prepared to lose some relationships. Not all of them will survive your transformation, and that's okay. Some relationships are meant to last a season, not a lifetime. The people who truly care about you will adapt. They might struggle with the changes, but they'll make the effort to understand and support you. They'll be happy you're growing even if it's different from what they expected. The people who can't adapt or won't support you, let them go. Sounds harsh, but what's the alternative? Staying small to keep people comfortable? That's not loyalty. That's self-betrayal. Some relationships you'll need to actively end. Family members who are toxic. Friends who drain your energy. Partners who don't want you to grow. This is painful but necessary. Other relationships will naturally fade. You'll have less in common. You'll drift apart. No dramatic ending, just gradual distance. This is also okay. And a few relationships will strengthen and deepen. These are the people who see what you're doing and respect it, who support you even when they don't fully understand, who want you to be your best self even if it's inconvenient for them. These relationships become your core. Treasure them, but understand going in, transformation is not socially neutral. It has relationship costs. Count the cost before you commit. The isolation risk. Disappearing to transform can tip into genuine isolation if you're not careful. And isolation, past a certain point, is destructive. Humans are social creatures. We need some connection. Complete isolation for extended periods can lead to distorted thinking, depression, and loss of perspective. The key is finding the right balance. Enough solitude to focus and grow. Enough connection to maintain psychological health. Watch for warning signs that you've tipped too far into isolation. You're starting to think everyone is against you or nobody understands you. This victim mentality is a red flag. You're losing social skills. When you do interact with people, it's awkward or difficult. You've been alone so long you've forgotten how to connect. You're developing rigid, extreme views. Without any pushback or different perspectives, your thinking can become unbalanced. You're feeling consistently depressed or anxious rather than focused and driven. If you notice these signs, you need to recalibrate. Reach out to someone safe. Get some social interaction. Don't abandon your transformation, but adjust the intensity of your isolation. Remember, the goal is transformation, not martyrdom. If the process is damaging your mental health, something needs to change. The identity crisis. When you transform dramatically, you might experience an identity crisis. The old you is gone, but the new you doesn't feel fully formed yet. You're between identities. This is disorienting. You might find yourself questioning everything. Who am I really? Is this authentic, or am I just playing a role? Did I make a mistake? This is normal. It's part of the process. Your brain is trying to reconcile the old identity with the new one. It's uncomfortable, but not dangerous. Push through it. The confusion resolves as the new identity solidifies. You just need time to integrate the changes into a coherent sense of self. Some things that help. Journal through it. Write about who you were, who you are, who you're becoming. Make sense of the narrative. Remember your reasons. Why did you start this transformation? Those reasons are still valid. Focus on actions, not feelings. Your identity is what you do consistently, not what you feel at any given moment. Keep executing your systems, even while feeling confused. Be patient. Identity integration takes time. You don't need to have everything figured out immediately. The perfectionism trap. When you're deep in transformation mode, you might develop unhealthy perfectionism. Nothing is ever good enough. Every minor failure feels catastrophic. You beat yourself up constantly. This is dangerous because it can lead to burnout or giving up entirely. You need to distinguish between high standards and perfectionism. High standards mean you expect a lot from yourself and work hard to meet those expectations. Perfectionism means you're never satisfied no matter what you achieve, and you punish yourself for any imperfection. High standards are motivating. Perfectionism is paralyzing. If you catch yourself in perfectionist thinking, recalibrate. Remember that progress is not perfection. You're allowed to be imperfect. You're allowed to have bad days. You're allowed to fail at things. What matters is the overall trajectory. Are you generally moving in the right direction? Are you mostly executing your systems? Are you making progress over weeks and months, even if any individual day is messy? If yes, you're doing fine. Cut yourself some slack. The superiority complex. Here's an ugly truth. As you transform and become legitimately better than you were, you might start feeling superior to others, looking down on people who aren't on the same path, judging people who are still trapped in patterns you've escaped. This is toxic. Catch it and kill it immediately. You're not better than anyone else. You're just at a different point in your journey. Maybe you started earlier. Maybe you had advantages they didn't. Maybe you just made different choices. But those choices don't make you inherently superior. They make you different. Arrogance and superiority will poison your transformation. They'll cut you off from learning. They'll damage relationships. They'll make you insufferable. Stay humble. Remember where you came from. Remember how hard it was to change. Remember that you're not done growing, and you never will be. When you see someone struggling with something you've overcome, feel compassion, not contempt. If you can help them without breaking your own boundaries, do so. If not, wish them well silently and move on. Your transformation is about you becoming better, not about you becoming better than others. The return difficulty. If you do decide to re-emerge after your transformation, the transition can be harder than you expect. You've gotten used to operating in the shadows. You've built systems that depend on isolation. Suddenly you're expected to be social again, available again, visible again. This can feel jarring. You might resist it. You might find yourself withdrawing again even though you consciously decided to re-emerge. This is normal. You're adjusting to a new mode. Give yourself time. You don't have to immediately return to full social engagement. You can ease back in gradually. Also remember that you get to define the terms of re-emergence. You don't have to go back to how things were before. You can engage on your terms, with your boundaries, according to your preferences. But be aware that re-emergence is its own challenge. It's not automatic or effortless. Plan for it. Approach it deliberately. Transformation across different life domains. Let's get specific about what transformation looks like in different areas of life. Each domain has unique challenges and strategies. Physical transformation. This is often the most visible aspect, and many people start here because the feedback is clear and measurable. Key principles. Consistency over intensity. Showing up every day matters more than occasional heroic efforts. Build habits that you can sustain long-term. Progressive overload. You must gradually increase demands on your body. More weight, more reps, more distance, more difficulty. Without progression, you maintain but don't transform. Recovery is growth. You don't get stronger during workouts. You get stronger during recovery. Sleep, nutrition, rest days are not optional. Nutrition is primary. You can't out-train a bad diet. What you eat matters more than how you train for most physical goals. Track everything. Weight, body composition, lifts, running times, measurements. Objective data prevents self-deception. Specific tactics. If building muscle, focus on compound movements, progressive overload, adequate protein, 0.8-1 g per pound of body weight, and proper sleep. Consistency in training 4 to 6 days per week. If losing fat, create a caloric deficit through diet primarily, not excessive cardio. Maintain protein high. Keep training intensity up to preserve muscle. Be patient. 1 to 2 pounds per week is sustainable. If building endurance, follow a structured program that gradually increases volume and intensity. Don't just run randomly. Have a plan. If developing athleticism, combine strength training, conditioning, skill work, and mobility. Be a well-rounded athlete. Common mistakes. Doing too much too soon and burning out or getting injured. Neglecting recovery. Expecting visible results too quickly. Not being patient with the process. comparing yourself to others who are at different starting points or using performance enhancers. Your physical transformation might take 6 to 18 months to achieve dramatic results, depending on your starting point and goals. That's okay. You're building a body that will serve you for decades. Financial transformation. Money is emotional, and most people have deeply dysfunctional relationships with it. Financial transformation requires addressing both practical and psychological components. Key principles. Spend less than you earn. Non-negotiable foundation. If you can't do this, nothing else matters. Increase income aggressively. Cutting expenses has limits. Income growth is unlimited. Focus more energy on earning more than on penny pinching. Invest consistently. Pay yourself first. Automate investments. Let compound interest work for you over decades. Avoid debt except for leverage. Consumer debt is cancer. Strategic debt, mortgages on cash-flowing assets, business loans with positive ROI, can accelerate wealth building. Build multiple income streams. Job income is fragile. Business income, investment income, passive income creates security. Specific tactics. Track every penny for at least 3 months. You can't manage what you don't measure. Use an app or spreadsheet. No exceptions. Create a spending plan that aligns with your values. Not a restrictive budget that makes you miserable, but a thoughtful allocation of resources toward what matters. Build an emergency fund of 3 to 6 months' expenses. This creates breathing room and prevents you from making desperate decisions. Pay off high-interest debt aggressively. Anything over 6 to 7% interest should be eliminated fast. Increase your income by developing valuable skills. Switching jobs often results in 20 to 30% pay increases. Negotiating raises, starting a side business, freelancing, investing in income-producing assets. Invest in low-cost index funds for long-term growth. Don't try to pick stocks unless you're willing to treat it like a full-time job. Learn continuously about money, investing, business, and value creation. Financial literacy is a learnable skill. Common mistakes. Lifestyle inflation, earning more but spending all of it. Trying to get rich quick through gambling or speculation. Not investing because you think you don't have enough. Keeping up with others' spending. Emotional spending to cope with stress. Financial transformation takes years, not months. You're building wealth that compounds over decades. But you can create a strong foundation in 6 to 12 months of focused effort. Career/professional transformation. Your work life takes up too much of your time to be unfulfilling. If you're going to transform, your career should be part of it. Key principles. Skills matter more than credentials in most fields. What you can do matters more than what degree you have. Reputation is currency. Build a reputation for excellence in your domain. Be the person people think of first for certain types of work. Network strategically. Know people who can help you grow and who you can help. Relationships accelerate careers. Deliver exceptional value. Don't just meet expectations, exceed them consistently. Be the person who makes things better. Position yourself in growing fields. A rising tide lifts all boats. Choose industries with momentum. Specific tactics. If you hate your job but can't quit immediately, use it as a training ground. What skills can you develop? What connections can you make? How can you use the resources available to you? If you want to switch careers, identify transferable skills. Gain new skills through self-study, courses, or entry-level positions. Network in your target field. Be willing to take a step back to move forward in a new direction. If you want to advance in your current career, make yourself indispensable. Solve problems proactively. Take on high-visibility projects. Develop leadership skills. Find a mentor. Document your achievements. Negotiate assertively. If you want to start a business, Start while you still have a job if possible. Validate your idea with real customers before quitting. Start small and profitable, not big and funded. Focus on generating revenue, not building the perfect product. Be prepared for it to take longer than you expect. Common mistakes. Staying in a toxic situation too long because you're afraid of change. Believing you're stuck because of age, experience level, or credentials. Not investing in skill development. Failing to network because you think it's inauthentic. Underselling yourself in negotiations. Professional transformation can happen faster than you think. You can make significant career moves in 1 to 2 years with focused effort. New skills can be developed in months. Businesses can start generating income within weeks if you're solving real problems. Mental/cognitive transformation. Your mind is your most important asset. Upgrading how you think pays dividends in every other area. Key principles. You can get smarter. Intelligence is not fixed. Your brain is plastic and adaptable. You can expand your cognitive abilities. Reading is fundamental. Books contain centuries of accumulated wisdom. Reading extensively makes you dramatically smarter and more capable. Writing clarifies thinking. When you write, you force yourself to organize thoughts into coherent structures. This improves thinking quality. Difficult problems build capacity. Don't avoid cognitive challenges. Seek them out. Your brain grows by struggling with hard problems. Learning compounds. Each thing you learn makes the next thing easier to learn. Knowledge builds on knowledge. Specific tactics. Read 30 to 60 minutes daily minimum. Mix of books, long-form articles, research papers. Prioritize quality over quantity. Write daily. Journal, blog, notes to yourself, whatever. The act of writing improves thinking. Learn difficult subjects that require concentration. Math, programming, philosophy, languages. Things that make your brain work hard. Practice deliberate focus. Work in 90-minute blocks of complete concentration with no distractions. Build your focus capacity systematically. Engage with ideas that challenge your views. Don't just consume content that confirms what you already believe. Intellectual growth requires exposure to different perspectives. Teach others what you're learning. Explaining forces deep understanding. Meditation or mindfulness practice. Even 10 to 20 minutes daily improves cognitive control and emotional regulation. Common mistakes. Passive consumption without active engagement. Reading without thinking about what you're reading. Learning without applying. Avoiding difficult material. Multitasking and destroying your focus capacity. Not allocating time for thinking and reflection. Mental transformation is gradual but compounds powerfully. 6 months of dedicated cognitive work will make you noticeably sharper. Years of it will make you formidable. Emotional/psychological transformation. This might be the most important and most difficult domain. You can achieve everything externally and still be miserable if your inner world is chaotic. Key principles. Emotions are information, not commands. You don't have to act on every feeling. Emotions signal something. Your job is to interpret the signal and choose your response. Past patterns can be changed. You're not doomed to repeat childhood conditioning or past trauma forever. With effort, you can rewire yourself. Self-awareness is the foundation. You can't change what you don't notice. Developing the ability to observe yourself without judgment is crucial. Emotions need processing, not suppression. Ignoring feelings doesn't make them go away. You need to feel them, understand them, and integrate them. Your thoughts create your emotional reality. How you interpret events matters more than the events themselves. Specific tactics. Daily emotional check-ins. Multiple times per day. Pause and ask, what am I feeling right now? Name the emotion specifically. Journal about emotional patterns. When do you feel anxious, angry, sad? What triggers these states? What helps? Practice emotional regulation techniques. Deep breathing, progressive muscle relaxation, grounding exercises. These give you tools for managing intense emotions. Challenge cognitive distortions. Notice catastrophizing, black and white thinking, mind reading, and other thinking errors. Question them. Process difficult emotions deliberately. Set aside time to actually feel feelings you've been avoiding. Cry if you need to. Rage if necessary safely. Let emotions move through you instead of staying stuck. Consider therapy with a good therapist. Sometimes you need professional help to work through deep issues. Practice self-compassion. Treat yourself with the same kindness you'd show a good friend. Stop the harsh self-criticism. Develop emotional vocabulary. The more precisely you can name what you're feeling, the better you can understand and manage it. Common mistakes. Spiritual bypassing. Using personal development to avoid dealing with real problems. Suppressing emotions and calling it strength. Blaming others for your emotional states. Not doing the deep work because it's painful. Expecting quick fixes for complex psychological issues. Psychological transformation is a lifelong journey, but you can make substantial progress in 6 to 12 months of consistent inner work. You will notice yourself responding to situations differently. Old triggers losing their power. More emotional stability and resilience. Social/relational transformation. Your relationships shape your life profoundly. Transforming how you connect with others changes everything. Key principles. Quality over quantity. A few deep connections matter more than dozens of superficial ones. Boundaries are love. Saying no to what's not right creates space for what is. You teach people how to treat you by what you tolerate, what you reward, and what you confront. Authentic vulnerability builds connection. Real relationships require showing up as you actually are, not as you think you should be. Not everyone deserves access to you. Be selective about who gets your time, energy, and intimacy. Specific tactics. Audit your current relationships. Who energizes you? Who drains you? Who supports your growth? Who holds you back? Be honest. Phase out relationships that are toxic or one-sided. This doesn't have to be dramatic. Just gradually reduce contact and energy investment. Invest deeply in relationships that matter. Show up for people who show up for you. Be present. Be generous with your support. Practice better communication. Say what you mean. Ask for what you need. Express appreciation. Address issues directly instead of letting resentment build. Develop your social skills deliberately. If you're awkward or struggle socially, these are learnable skills. Read books, take courses, practice. Join communities of people who share your values and interests. Whether online or in person, find your people. Be the kind of friend/partner/family member you want to have. Model the behavior you wish to see. Common mistakes. Staying in bad relationships because of sunk cost or guilt. Not communicating needs clearly. Expecting others to read your mind. Being a taker instead of a giver. Not setting boundaries and then resenting people for crossing non-existent boundaries. Social transformation can happen relatively quickly once you commit to it. You can rebuild your social circle in 6 to 12 months. You can dramatically improve your relationships by changing how you show up in them. Maintaining transformation permanently. The hardest part isn't transforming. It's staying transformed. Most people achieve their goals and then slowly slide back to old patterns. Don't be them. You've witnessed this tragedy play out countless times. Someone loses 60 pounds and looks absolutely incredible. Everyone celebrates. Photos get posted. Compliments flow. 2 years later, they've gained it all back, plus 20 more pounds. Someone builds a thriving business from scratch, grinding for years, sacrificing everything. 5 years later, the business has collapsed because they stopped doing what made it successful. Someone develops iron discipline, waking up at 4:30 a.m. every day, training hard, executing flawlessly. A year later, they're sleeping until noon and struggling to do basic tasks. The pattern repeats endlessly across all domains. Physical transformations that dissolve, financial gains that evaporate, skill development that atrophies, relationship improvements that regress. The graveyard of abandoned transformations is vast and tragic. This is the hidden truth nobody wants to discuss. Achieving the transformation is actually the easier part. Maintaining it for years and decades is where almost everyone fails. The statistics are absolutely brutal. Over 80% of people who lose significant weight regain it within 5 years. Most businesses fail within their first decade. Most dramatic lifestyle changes revert to baseline within a year. The New Year's resolution success rate hovers below 10%. The default outcome of transformation is regression. Why does this happen? Because people prepare for the transformation, but not for the maintenance. They gear up for the sprint, but don't train for the marathon. They think crossing the finish line is the accomplishment. It's not. Staying in excellent condition for the next 30 years is the accomplishment. And almost nobody is mentally prepared for that challenge. The maintenance mindset. First, understand that you don't get to finish. There's no point where you're done and can coast. Life is continuous. Growth is continuous. Maintenance is just another word for continued growth at a sustainable pace. This is the fundamental error that destroys most transformations. People treat transformation like a project with a completion date. I'm going to get in shape over 6 months, and then I'll be done. I'll build my business to $100,000 revenue. Then I can relax. I'll develop discipline for a year. Then it'll be automatic. Wrong. Completely, catastrophically wrong. You're never done. The person you've become requires continuous effort to sustain. Your transformed state is not a permanent condition that maintains itself automatically. It's a dynamic equilibrium that requires constant energy input. The moment you stop providing that energy, entropy begins its destructive work immediately. Consider your physical body. If you spend a year building an incredible physique, lean, muscular, athletic, powerful, and then you stop training and eating well, what happens? Does your body freeze in that state? Of course not. Your muscles begin to atrophy within days. Your strength decreases within weeks. Fat accumulates within months. Your cardiovascular capacity declines. Your mobility stiffens. Your energy plummets. Within 6 months, you're back to average. Within 2 years, you might be worse than when you started. Your body doesn't maintain peak condition automatically. It requires ongoing stimulus, resistance training, cardiovascular work, mobility practice, proper nutrition, adequate recovery. Stop the input, lose the output. This is biological law. The same principle governs everything else. Your wealth doesn't maintain itself. Without ongoing management, strategic decisions, earning efforts, and investment attention, your money slowly erodes through inflation, poor choices, lifestyle creep, taxes, and unexpected expenses. Your skills don't maintain themselves. Stop practicing a language and you forget it. Stop coding and you get rusty. Stop playing an instrument and your ability degrades. Your discipline doesn't maintain itself. It's a muscle that requires regular exercise. Stop using it and it weakens, making future discipline even harder. Your relationships don't maintain themselves. Stop investing time, energy, attention, and care, and they deteriorate into resentment or indifference. Your business doesn't maintain itself. Stop innovating, marketing, improving, and paying attention, and it declines while competitors advance. Nothing of value maintains itself automatically. Everything requires energy. The universe tends naturally toward entropy and disorder. Order, structure, excellence, achievement. These require constant effort to maintain against the relentless pull toward decay. This is not pessimism. This is physics applied to human endeavors, and it's non-negotiable reality. So kill the fantasy right now that you're working towards some magical endpoint where you can completely relax while everything stays perfect. That endpoint doesn't exist in reality. What actually exists is a transition from high-intensity transformation mode to sustainable maintenance mode. Different energy levels, same fundamental requirement for consistent effort. Shift from transformation mode to optimization mode. You're no longer making dramatic changes. You're fine-tuning. You're sustaining what you've built while continuing to improve incrementally. This requires a different energy level. Transformation mode is intense and unsustainable long-term. During active transformation, you operate at 95 to 100% capacity constantly. You sprint at full speed. You push yourself to absolute limits daily. You make massive sacrifices without hesitation. You say no to virtually everything that doesn't directly serve your transformation. You might train twice a day. You work on your business every spare moment. You study obsessively. You eliminate all distractions ruthlessly. You live like a warrior monk with singular focus. This works brilliantly for defined periods. 3 to 6 months of this intensity can create remarkable changes. Maybe you can sustain it for a year if you're exceptionally resilient and your life circumstances support this level of intensity. But try to maintain that brutal pace for 5 years, 10 years, the rest of your life. You'll burn out completely. Your body will break down. Your mind will crack. Your relationships will explode. You'll lose your sanity. Transformation mode is by definition unsustainable as a permanent lifestyle. Optimization mode is sustainable indefinitely. You operate at 70 to 80% capacity most of the time, with occasional deliberate pushes to 90 to 95% when needed for specific goals. It's less dramatic, but still intentional and focused. You're not sprinting anymore. You're running a steady marathon pace that you can maintain for decades. You train 4 to 5 days a week instead of 7 or 8. You work on your business during designated productive hours instead of every waking moment. You maintain high standards without neurotic rigidity. You have space for relationships, genuine rest, spontaneous enjoyment, and unexpected opportunities. The transition from transformation mode to optimization mode is an art that requires calibration. Pull back too much and you'll regress quickly, losing what you fought hard to build. Don't pull back enough and you'll burn out catastrophically, potentially quitting everything in exhaustion and frustration. You need to find your personal sustainable pace, the precise level of effort you can maintain indefinitely while still holding your transformed state and making slow progress. Here's how to know when you've found the right balance. You can maintain your current systems indefinitely without feeling constantly exhausted, overwhelmed, or resentful. You should have sufficient energy remaining for other important areas of life beyond just maintenance activities. You shouldn't be white-knuckling through every day, gritting your teeth, forcing yourself to continue. If maintaining feels like torture, you need to dial back your intensity slightly or adjust your systems. You should still be making slow, incremental progress rather than just staying completely static. Optimization mode isn't about freezing yourself in place like a statue. It's about continuing to improve, just at a gentler, more sustainable pace. If you're slowly regressing week by week, you've pulled back too much. If you're still making dramatic visible progress every week, you're probably still operating at transformation intensity rather than maintenance mode. Your system should feel integrated into your lifestyle, not like foreign impositions you're constantly forcing yourself to execute. Training should be just what you do on certain days, not something requiring massive psyching up before each session. Healthy eating should be just how you eat naturally, not a daily battle against overwhelming cravings. Working on your goals should be just your normal routine, not something demanding heroic willpower every single time. When you reach this state, maintenance becomes dramatically easier. You're not fighting yourself anymore. You're not forcing behaviors that feel deeply unnatural. You've actually become the person who does these things. It's your identity now, not just your temporary actions. The 80% rule. You don't need to be perfect to maintain your transformation. You need to be consistent enough. The 80% rule. If you're doing the right things 80% of the time, you'll maintain and even continue improving. It's the 20% when you're off track that you need to contain and prevent from expanding. This is profoundly liberating once you truly internalize it. You don't need perfection. Perfection is impossible anyway for normal humans living complex lives. Perfectionism will just make you miserable, anxious, and eventually cause you to quit entirely in frustration. What you actually need is strong overall consistency with reasonable room for human imperfection. This means, in practical terms, you can miss workouts occasionally without losing fitness. Life inevitably happens. You get sick with flu or injury. Work demands suddenly explode. Family emergencies occur without warning. Missing 1 or 2 scheduled workouts in a month. Totally fine. Zero meaningful impact on your fitness. But you can't miss them regularly as a pattern. Missing half your scheduled workouts every single month? You'll slowly but steadily regress. You can eat poorly sometimes without gaining weight or losing your hard-won progress. Special occasions inevitably happen in life. Vacations, holidays, celebrations, social events, having a big indulgent meal once or twice a week. Perfectly fine. Your body can easily handle it. But you can't eat poorly most of the time. If your diet is 50% junk food and processed garbage, you're absolutely going to lose what you built, probably faster than you built it. You can slack off on your business for a day without it collapsing immediately. You're allowed to have genuinely off days. Days where you're not feeling it mentally and you do the bare minimum to keep things running. This is human and completely normal. But you can't neglect it for weeks at a time. If you're only seriously working on your business 1 day a week when it genuinely needs consistent daily attention, it will decline while competitors advance. The critical key is not letting the 20% exception slowly become 40%, then 60%, then back to your old dysfunctional patterns. This is precisely how regression happens in real life. It's gradual and insidious, not sudden. You start making slightly more exceptions than the rule allows, then a few more, then more. Before you fully realize what's happening, the exception has become your new default pattern, and you're right back where you started or worse. When you notice yourself slipping even slightly, correct immediately. Don't wait. Don't negotiate with yourself. Don't make elaborate excuses. Don't tell yourself you'll get back on track next Monday or next month. Correct right now, today. That missed workout. Do it the very next day. That week of eating poorly. Lock back and immediately with your next meal. That neglected business task. Handle it today. Regression is infinitely easier to stop at the very beginning when it's small. If you catch slippage when you've dropped from 80% to 70% consistency, you can course correct relatively easily. If you wait until you've plummeted to 30% consistency, climbing back up requires massive effort. You've lost too much momentum. The gap between where you currently are and where you need to be feels overwhelming and demoralizing. Stay constantly vigilant. Monitor yourself honestly. At the first clear sign of consistent slippage in any area, intervene decisively. Systems for sustainability. Your transformation systems need to evolve into maintenance systems. They should require less intense focus, but remain consistent. During active transformation, your systems were probably quite complex and demanding. Multiple training sessions per day. Detailed meal prep for every meal. Hour-long elaborate morning routines. Obsessive tracking of every possible metric. Deep work blocks of 3 to 4 hours minimum. This level of systematic intensity is absolutely necessary to create rapid dramatic change in short time frames. But it's not necessary to simply maintain that change once achieved. And trying to maintain that crushing intensity forever will burn you out catastrophically. Your maintenance systems should be simpler, more streamlined, more automated where possible, but still fundamentally consistent. Reduce frequency, but maintain intensity. Maybe you train 6 or 7 days a week during transformation. Now you train 4 solid days a week, but those 4 sessions are still genuinely high quality. You're still lifting heavy weights with good form. You are still pushing yourself appropriately. You're just doing less total volume because you don't need as much stimulus to maintain as you needed to build initially. Simplify but don't abandon. Your morning routine might have been 90 minutes during transformation, meditation, journaling, reading, detailed planning, visualization, mobility work, the complete works. Now maybe it's 30 to 45 minutes, just the core practices that matter most to you personally. But it still happens every single day without exception. Automate what you can. Set up systems that require minimal active decision-making and willpower. Automatic investments that leave your account every month before you see the money. Meal delivery services or systematic meal prep that removes the daily decision of what to eat. Recurring calendar blocks for your most important activities. Templates and standard operating procedures for your business operations. Whatever intelligently removes unnecessary friction from doing the right things consistently. The more you can automate good behaviors through systems, the less willpower you need to expend. Willpower is a genuinely limited resource that depletes through the day. Don't waste it on things that can be systematized intelligently. Keep tracking, not as obsessively as during transformation, but still tracking enough to notice meaningful trends before they become problems. Maybe you weighed yourself daily during transformation to catch any issues immediately. Now you weigh yourself weekly, which is sufficient to notice trends. Maybe you tracked every single penny of spending daily. Now you review your finances monthly. Maybe you logged every single workout in meticulous detail. Now you just make sure you're hitting your scheduled sessions and tracking your main compound lifts. You need enough measurement to catch slippage early, but not so much that tracking becomes burdensome. Without any tracking, you're flying completely blind. You won't notice that you've slowly gained 15 pounds until your clothes don't fit anymore. You won't notice that your business revenue is quietly declining until it becomes a crisis. You won't notice that your strength has dropped significantly until you can't lift what you used to lift easily. Track key metrics regularly and honestly, not obsessively, but consistently. This is your early warning system that keeps you on course. Guard against regression. Life stress. When difficulty hits, people abandon their transformation habits, thinking they're luxury activities. This is backward. Your workout, healthy eating, and morning routine become more important during stress, not less. Create a minimal viable version of your systems now. Maybe training 3 days instead of 6, a 15-minute routine instead of 60 minutes. Hold the line at reduced intensity rather than dropping everything completely. Success complacency. After achieving goals, every instinct screams to relax. I've earned it. This is poison. Success doesn't give permission to abandon the behaviors that created it. Celebrate appropriately. Then set new goals and maintain your systems. The first month after achievement is the most dangerous. Stay vigilant. Social pressure. People will pull you toward old patterns. Stand firm on boundaries. Boredom, initial excitement fades. What remains is consistent execution. Find new challenges to stay engaged. Identity drift. Over time, you may identify more with who you were than who you are. Catch this immediately and recommit. Continuous evolution. Keep setting new goals. Make transformation a lifestyle of continuous improvement, not a one-time event. The paradox. Transformation isn't becoming someone new. It's revealing who you actually are beneath conditioning and limitation. You're not building a new self. You're uncovering your real self. This is why successful transformation feels profoundly right, and why you can't return to the old life. Disappear to transform. Do the work. Become who you were meant to be.